Have you ever wondered why the people who carry the most light had to walk through the most darkness to find it? Why is it that the women who became the greatest healers were once the ones who needed healing most? Why is it that the most awakened souls you've ever met are also the ones who have the most scars? That is not a coincidence. That is not bad luck. That is a pattern. And if you are here right now watching this, something inside you already knows that. Think about every person you've ever met who radiated something you couldn't quite name. A kind of knowing, a stillness, a depth that made you feel safe just being near them. I promise you, that person did not arrive there easily, because here is what I have come to believe with every part of me. You cannot pour from a well you've never broken open to fill. The breaking is the opening. The loss is the lesson. The thing you are still trying to make sense of is the very thing that is cracking you open. And that is terrifying and scary all at the same time. There is an ancient myth, older than most religions, about a magnificent bird called the phoenix. The phoenix lives a full and radiant life. Then it burns. Not because something went wrong, because it was time. The phoenix doesn't fight the fire. It doesn't beg to be spared. It surrenders. It lets the old version of itself become ash. And then, from those very ashes, it rises. Not the same bird. Something entirely new, more luminous than before, more powerful than anything the fire could have imagined destroying. That myth exists in nearly every culture on Earth. In ancient Egypt, in Greece, in China, and Persia, because it is not just a story. It is a truth we have always known, that some transformations can only happen through fire. Mystics and spiritual teachers across centuries have called it the dark night of the soul. It is that season in a woman's life when everything she thought she was stops working. The identity that used to fit suddenly feels like a costume. The relationships that used to feel safe begin to show their cracks. The life she carefully constructed starts to quietly come apart. And she stands in the middle of it all, wondering, did I do something wrong? No, she did something right. She grew, and the old shell could no longer contain her. I know this pattern because I have lived it more than one time. I became a mother at 19 years old. I built my whole world around that, around being needed, around being the one who held everything together. For decades, that was enough, or at least I told myself it was. But life has a way of asking questions you've been avoiding, and mine arrived all at once. The marriage ended. The children grew up and found their own lives. The house went quiet in a way I wasn't prepared for. And I stood in the silence, surrounded by the ashes of everything I thought I was asking the hardest questions I ever had to face. Who am I when no one needs me anymore? I won't pretend the answer came quickly. It came slowly, in the stillness, in the surrender. I began noticing things I used to dismiss, patterns that couldn't be explained away, a quiet knowing I had been silencing for years. And I realized something that changed everything. I wasn't falling apart. I was being remade. The fire wasn't the end of my story. It was the forge. When I finally stopped trying to rebuild the life that I had lost, and started listening to what was trying to be born, I discovered something that humbled me. The thing people had always come to me for wasn't advice. It wasn't information. It wasn't answers. They came because in my presence, they remembered something they had forgotten about themselves. They felt seen, not performed for, not fixed, seen. And I understood then what the fire had been preparing me for. Not to be someone who tells women who they are, but to be someone who stands beside them while they remember it for themselves. A phoenix does not rise alone. She rises, and her rising gives permission to every other woman watching to believe that she can too. We live in a world that has made us dependent. We are dependent on systems that see us as a statistic, on institutions that profit from our uncertainty, on governments and corporations that would rather we stay distracted than discover how powerful we actually are. And I have had enough of that. Because I have seen what happens when women wake up. I have seen what happens when women stop waiting to be saved and start saving each other. I have seen what happens when women gather, not online for the performance of it, but in real, rooted human community, where your neighbor knows your name, where someone shows up when things just fall apart, where we share resources, wisdom, strength, where we are not numbers in a system. We are women. We are enough. We are each other's answer. And that is what I am building, a community of women who have walked through fire and decided that their rising is not going to be silent. Women who are done outsourcing their sense of belonging to anything that doesn't know their name. Women who are ready to come home to themselves and to each other. Something in this video stirred something in you. If you've been feeling like you're in the fire right now and you don't know how much longer you can hold on, I want you to hear this. You are not falling. You are becoming. The ashes are not your ending. They are your beginning. And you do not have to rise alone. The phoenix rises, not because the fire wasn't real, but because she was always more powerful than the flame. So are you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting me with your time and your heart. Stay with me because we are just getting started and the world needs us awake.